Hello and welcome back to WornOut Racing and part 2 of the Turbo Exhaust build. Now we are really cracking on with this now, but what can I expect from today's episode, Benjamin? Well, we are definitely going to be grinding some stuff. We're going to be welding some stuff. And if you're very well behaved, you might even hear some exhaust noises today. Okay, I'm sorry. Roll the intro. So we've actually got a little bit of a change of plan. So my original plan was to get my lovely new V-clamp, which has actually turned up and it's so nicely made. I love this kind of stuff and it just feels really nicely machined. So it actually sits and that clips together. I was going to use one half of the new V-clamp and then the old part of the V-clamp's on the cat now. But if you'll be able to see it on the camera, just in there, little mating face just on the inside, is very, very slightly different design to the one that's already on the cat, so I can't do it. So what I've managed to do is, rather than try and cut the cat and put the new one on, it's just extra work for, you know, little gains really. I've managed to salvage the old one. So what I did was the pipe this was originally welded to, I've cut that off, and then I've cut about 5mm off the top of the actual V-clamp itself to get past the weld, and then just knock the inner part of the exhaust out of it. So you would have seen that in the time lapse. It's not the tidiest job at the minute. I need to go back round and clean that up, but there's more than enough metal to weld that on there. And what it means then is that inner face, mounting face, is the one that matches the cat, so it'll go straight on. So I'll stick some welds on that. I will quickly test fit it, you know, follow my own advice before I properly bead round it. Right, the other thing to remember, obviously, when you're doing your welding, if I just take that off, is you need to clean up the pipes and bits that you're welding. So don't just try and stick them together and weld it. It just won't earth properly and you'll get loads of problems. So I've actually just used this. Or you can use a little bit of scour and pan stuff. You haven't got to go mental, you just need to just basically get that coating off. And again, make sure the other side's clean and stuff as well. The other tip as well is when you're welding, you usually just have the welding clamp. If you get some old welding wire and like wound it up into like a bit of a bird's nest, when you actually then clamp on, rather than just having those couple tiny little points, actually if I can grab it, I'll show you. There we go. So rather than just having obviously those couple tiny little points that are touching the metal and earthing through that, if you clamp that on with that welding wire, which I'll show you when I do it anyway, then you've obviously got loads of little points touching the metal, and you just get a much better earth. And in the long run, it'll be easier, especially if you've got like a relatively cheap welder like me. You need all the help you can get. So I'll clean this up and then I'll show you what I mean. Right, okay, so we're pretty much ready to do some welding. So I did clean up the V-clamp with the actual grinder. There's loads of old welds and stuff on there anyway, and I just wanted to get it all nice and smooth. But I didn't need to do it with the other pipe, like I said. Hopefully you'll be able to see on camera. We'll have a little look. Actually, we'll get a little bit closer to that. So you can see that where I've got this welding wire, you don't have to be too precise with it, just bend it all down and clamp it on. Like I said, it just increases the amount of places that you're basically earthing that wire onto. Or at least that's the theory anyway. I saw it on a welding video ages ago and it does seem to help. So definitely give that a shot. It certainly won't hurt anyway. So, I mean, it goes without saying, you need a decent welding helmet, you need some decent gloves, make sure the battery's all working and stuff in there. And again, I mean, in these personal experience, I always have the sensitivity turned pretty high. You know, let's face it, like I said before, you only get one pair of eyes, even if it makes the welding a little bit more difficult because it's darker, you know, so be it. So let's get some welding on. This is the thing about welding, it's very much an experience thing. I've watched enough videos and stuff, and I've spoken to people that weld that have told me like the principles of it, but until you actually do it and you start to see what does and doesn't work well, then you know it's almost a little bit of a steep learning curve as you go along. So what will probably happen is once I start actually bead welding this up properly, going all the way around, you'll always see it. The first third of it is like, and then it gets better as it goes round. You just get the angle a little bit better and the pace and stuff like that and the wire speed. But either way, enough of me talking, that's that bit done. I'm going to tack weld on the longer piece of pipe now, and then that basically puts us in good stead for the exhaust hanger. Right, okay, so that's welded up. I will put my gloves back on because I'm notorious for touching metal when it's still hot. So again, they're only meant to be spot welds, they're not meant to be anything amazing. Now you may well spot some flaws in my welding, but that's fine. But what you'll notice is if you're doing like a gasless welding, so it's where it's actually got the protection gas in the actual wire itself, you'll get this puffs of powder. So if anybody is new to welding, if you now try and weld the rest of this, it won't do it. It just stops it earthing on there. So all you need to do is get a wire brush it off, and kind of, I guess, just prep it like you would when you were about to weld anything else. So I've got 4 decent welds on there anyway. You won't have seen this, but on the actual, I'll get you back up here, on the actual pipe itself, did exactly the same thing as before. Just got a grinder, just took that very inner lip so it just dips in just a little bit, just so you've got that little gully to kind of weld into. And I just made sure I got the actual like stainless coating off the outside just so it earthed well, and that actually did really well. That was a bit better than the other piece. It's actually always easier as well if you're welding 2 types of metal. They're exactly the same type of metal, same thickness. It's when you start getting like one's thick and one's thin, it starts getting a little bit difficult. But I won't do any more now, because what I'll do is I'll let that cool down. I'll get it bolted up to the car properly. I'll get the V-clamp on and stuff, and then we'll figure out how high we need to get it and mark up and stuff for the actual exhaust hanger. And that should put us in pretty good stead then. I mean, that is, you know, within reason, quite a large bulk of it. The back is going to be difficult and a bit tricky. Kind of the same thing. Just a little bit fiddly, but it should be okay. I've got a little bit of a plan for it, and that should hopefully work out. We'll call that a good one for that for now. I'll get it fitted and then we'll film from there. Well, there you go, check that out. So I've actually used just a jack just to try and get it nice and level, and as you will see, hopefully it's been a bit of a reoccurring theme at the moment, but that has actually gone spot on. So I've tightened it up, so the V-clamp's actually tightened. I've just had to adjust it a few times just to get that kind of pitch right with it, so you know you're going off on the right angle. But at the moment it follows the body line perfectly. It's basically dead straight in the actual like tunnel itself. Always important to remember that with the rubber hoses, rubber hangers you have on these, there is a little bit of movement, so you need to sort of jiggle it up and down and back and left and right, make sure you're not touching anything. And it's actually spot on. So the next bit now obviously continues from here, and that's when it starts to have to go round the tank and stuff like that. So this is probably where it gets important to remember, I guess, is that 45-degree bend onto the straight piece of pipe. It made no difference whatsoever what angle that was welded onto. So when we spot welded it on there, the nice thing about V-clamps is you can spin it within the clamp, like, you know, full 360 degrees. So that bit was fine. And as you see now, we've got it onto the actual car itself. We've adjusted it, or I've adjusted it, sorry, so that it's all level and straight. And that is basically now where you need to work from, because obviously now it's starting to do like S-bends. If you don't weld it on the right rotation, I guess, then suddenly you're going to get to a point it's either going to hit the bottom of the car or it's going to go down too low. So this is where marking it on either side with a pen, when you sort of get it level, so that then when you get it back off the car and then get it all lined up with the lines and then spot weld it, it should be okay. Now, in an ideal world, and probably how they do it when they get it up on a ramp, would be tacking it while it's in place. But, you know, as long as you're sensible with the tacks, if it goes on there and it is a little off, you only have to grind them off a little bit and then redo it. So let's get to the back of the car. And I'll show you the exhaust I said I've just shown then. That's a little bit of a bodge. I didn't follow my own advice. I basically tried to build it from the back to meet the front that I'd already built. Don't do that. It's a really bad idea. It didn't work out very well at all. So I'll go to the back and I'll show you roughly how well it kind of links up at the moment, and the little changes we're going to have to do. Here we go, the classic mini exhaust. I didn't actually mention this before, but I've actually bolted this through the floor itself. I don't like it when you see the exhaust hangers running all the way down here. I mean, it's just my own personal preference, but so I haven't actually buttoned this up properly yet, so I need to seal all the holes and stuff. But there's a bar that runs inside the car where the bolts go through to give it a little bit of extra strength with a couple of locking washers on there. And it just means these are actually just, like I said, anti-roll bar bushes, and once it's all bolted up, if it needs to go a little bit higher, I can just trim those down. And it works really well. So this is how far it sticks out. It will have about 10mm gap between the bumper and the tip itself, so it doesn't mount, but I've got a little heat shield on there with some gold heat reflective tape stuff on it. But you'll be able to see my problem now. So there's the 2-inch stainless exhaust, there's the mild one. Now if I sort of vaguely lift this up without it moving too much, you know, it doesn't look as far out as it actually is. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut it off, basically just there. I'm just going to slice it straight off, slide it over the top, and then work out how far it needs to come before I cut it off, before it has to start bending round. And then I'm just going to effectively just start like just slowly but surely just cutting bits off, trimming them and stuff as I need to start making my way back up to the middle. So none of this kind of like chop and cut and shut, trying to meet in the middle thing. I've learned my lesson. So I'm going to unbolt this, which pains me a little bit because it was a nightmare to get on there on my own just now. But I'll grab the reciprocating saw, and then we'll come back and see where we're at. Okay, so there you go. Look, I've got the saw out. As I've mentioned before, it does give quite a nice cut. I will probably level that out a little bit more. But like I said before, it's a 2-inch mild steel, and you can see where it just steps up then just to slide over the stainless steel, which is ideal. Because it means I'm not messing about trying to like join mild and stainless and stuff like that. The back box was always meant to be a little bit of a throwaway item, and when I eventually want to do it out of stainless steel, I will. Other than that, I've trimmed a little bit off the edge of this as well, just to take off all the welds that I did before. But fingers crossed, once we get underneath the car and test fit the new piece and how short that needs to be, that it's going to be this section really that's going to need the like modification, because I don't really want to have to mess about with this bit too much, because I've already joined the mini exhaust to the Cinquecento centerpiece, so I don't really want to have to mess with that too much. But we'll get under the car and we'll see how it looks. So there you go. Look, so I've just slipped that on there. There's a tiny little bit left to go on, but I don't want to have to struggle to get it back off. But as you can see, it's actually not too bad a length. It needs to, I would say, oh man, a couple of inches probably at most, just to get it sitting in a slightly more sensible place when that other bit of exhaust comes. But as always, before I chop anything and go too crazy, I'm just going to quickly test fit that other piece of exhaust back box to see roughly where it crosses over, and then we'll be back. 1 second. Right, now I'm not expecting this to be particularly accurate, but if I just get this on these bolts, that'll give us a fairly vague idea what we're working with. Do you know what? That is getting pretty close. Right, I think I've worked it out. So I'll get the camera, get the exhaust on the floor, and I'll show you what we're going to do. So if I've sussed this out properly, I think the piece of bar that I've already chopped, I'm going to need to cut it by about this much at least, just so that effectively then that all just becomes one long piece. So I think to start with, I'm just going to take off literally that piece there. And then, by the looks of it on the actual car, my wish of actually only needing slight modification here means I think I'm still only going to need to take this sort of centre section out and not touch any of the rest. But we'll tackle that again in a minute. So I'll just get this marked up. We'll get the reciprocating saw back out, and we'll try and make a pretty decent cut of this. So like I said, we'll take off a bit less than we think we need, cause ourselves less headaches in the long run. Oh, actually, I'll save your ears. I'll be back. See, I'm always thinking about your health and safety. Actually, I've just thought of something. At the risk of this dragging on too long, I've had a little think. I've sussed a few things out. So let's try something else out here. So, old Taylor A, if you've watched his channel, has got his finger snap. But I'm not doing that. Let's try something a bit new. Right, here we go. That did a trick. I reckon one more should sort that out. Result. Exactly what I was after. Okay, in all seriousness, all that messing aside, there wasn't much point me showing you that. It was a lot of getting under the car and marking it, bringing it out and cutting off an inch and then taking it back in and marking it and taking it back out and cutting off another little bit. I just wanted to slowly but progressively do it so I didn't cock this last bit up, because this little bend, first bend around the tank, if I got that wrong, it was going to be a right nightmare to sort it out. So I'll grab a torch, I'll grab these cut off bits of metal, and I'll just take you through what I've done so far. Well, there you go. Look, I bet you never thought you'd spend quite as much time watching a 37-year-old man lying underneath a car, but there you go. You subscribed to this, you brought it on yourself. So one of the things I did was, if I can get it on here, 1 second, takes a little bit of wiggling to get this damn thing on there. Right, so I actually cut this off quite a lot more than I thought in the end. It was, first off, I thought we were going to have to cut a tiny bit off. I think I ended up cutting off, you know, a good 3-inch piece. And then this is the next bend, which you saw me cut off in my slightly weird hand swiping gesture. I actually trimmed a little bit off of this one as well. So I will stop the video and show you this exactly. But that effectively goes on to there, like that. So let me get it all adjusted up and I'll actually show you it from underneath once it's on there properly. Just give me 1 second. Well, there you go. So I've managed to seat that much better now. So it's now all the way in. And thankfully you'll see, look, I've got a nice little gap and it's curving round. Lovely, in fact. So I think probably the best thing to do for us now will be to go grab the exhaust, the back box. We'll bolt it up. I'll get it on the 2 bolts just to make sure it's in a roughly decent place. And then we'll see what we're working with. But fingers crossed, we won't need to do a huge amount of modification now to join those 2 bits together. Happy days. Now those eagle-eyed viewers amongst you will go, hang on a minute, didn't he say he was going to sort the exhaust hanger out before he did anything else? And then we'll figure out how high we need to get it and mark up and stuff for the actual exhaust hanger. And now basically puts us in good stead for the exhaust hanger. And yeah, I did. But in truth, I've gone to a couple of places to get exhaust hangers. They've been sold out. What are the chances? So I thought, do you know what? I think I've planned it well enough and I've actually kept double checking it by lifting the exhaust exactly the same place every time. So as much as I'm making excuses, it's all right to cut the odd corner as long as it's a sensible one. Does that go against everything I've already said? Yeah. So anyway, I'm going to weld this onto this, put it back on this. Right then, now if this has gone vaguely to plan, then when we put this back on here again, this is going to need the amendments that I think. Actually, do you know what? Let me just bolt this back on and then we'll talk. Come on. So once we get this bolted back up, we'll be able to get it on an axle stand. And hopefully be able to suss out roughly where we're at. So I'll grab the camera. Let's take a little look. Right, let's have a look. Now we're going to see a fundamental problem here. So when you look at it like that, you think, hey, do you know what? That's actually not that bad. I must only have to cut off there and it's good. But this is where the problem lies. You will notice, if my camera zooms, that is about, sorry, let's go back a little bit. That's going to hit the bottom of the tank there. And also, especially, if I line this up so it's actually in the hole at the back, it is miles off. So I've decided that we're going to cut our losses. I'm going to cut it off here at the back box. After all that work I did putting a little brace and stuff on there. I might cut it a little bit further back actually, just like here. And then I'm just going to build it and then just suss out how to join it onto it at the end. It's a bit of a disappointment because I thought I was going to have to avoid not having to do that, but it's all right. I'm going to hack this off and then we'll work out then what cuts we have to do to get it to go around this part. I bet you're thinking, why didn't he just go for a side exit? I'll be honest with you, I'm thinking the same thing. There we go. That pained me a little bit, but that's cut off. But straight away, you'll hopefully be able to see that is far more sensible, because rather than me forcing it a route that it doesn't want to take, it joins there, it goes around the tank, and it enters sort of vaguely center. So probably what I'm going to do, I may well just, I think I'm going to get this nice and level, figure out roughly where it's going to go, and I reckon I'm probably going to put 2 tiny little tacks on there almost straight away, because I mean, within reason, there is no other path for that to take. And then when it gets to here, that's where we're going to have to try and think somewhere. I imagine what's probably going to happen is I'm going to have to buy a little bend to have this actually effectively then scoot back out and then go straight down into the actual back box. So, yeah, not quite what I planned, but hey, that's cars. Not quite how I wanted that last one to end. I was determined to have this done in part 2. But you know, it's cars, and I'd rather get it done properly anyway. So I'll do a little bit of work on this off camera, so I can order a couple of bits in, and you can hold me to this. I'm aiming, no, I'm going to get this exhaust finished, or at least tacked up and fitted to the car, ready for me to weld it up by part 3. And then if we can get it all welded up as well, with no testing whatsoever, so I'm not gonna rig this. If it does it, it does it. I'm going to try and start the car and see if it idles. So if it doesn't, I'll show you, and if it does, then you'll see it first time like I will. So hopefully that's something to look forward to. But thanks again for stopping by. Hello, and thanks to all my new subscribers. I had quite a few joins since last week. As always, please use the comments to chuck anything else you'd like me to do less of, do more of, stuff you'd like me to see specifically. If you want me to do features and stuff like that, I've got plenty of ideas for things for that as well. But yeah, that's enough for me for today. I'll catch you in the next episode. If you get some time, go check out my playlist. I've been separating everything off into its various sections. You've got how-tos, videos on the Turbo Cinquecento or on the Slug, and my new section for worn-out car heroes, where I'm going to be highlighting cars that I think are just really cool, been built on a shoestring, or just completely up my street. You should definitely go check out the Turbo Micron Officially Gas channel. It's an awesome little thing. I think you'll find it fun. My other section is just on my liked videos, where I'm just trying to take the effort to highlight other channels that I think you'll find really interesting as well. Taylor Ray's being one of those. Really honest, really nice guy. Some great content and some really cool cars as well. So definitely go and give him a look